now's the time for me to introduce our speaker tonight. Just a little bit of background for people who are not aware. PeopleCert acquired Axelos, who used to be the custodians of the Prince2 framework, and as a result, the ownership and the expertise and the publishing of the methodology framework and all the contents of it is now down to PeopleCert. There are several PeopleCert people in the room, but the important one is Narinder, who is going to be speaking to us about the Prince2 framework. And I know from reading the notes that Narinder has a long track record in project management, working with lots of methodologies, but in particular Prince2. And let's see if I can get this right. You're senior product architect, is that the title with it?
You could just read it off the slide.
Oh, yes.
What's the point there? I'll give you a referral on that one.
So let me hand over.
Thank you very much. Hi guys, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. So yes, thank you for the introduction. I am Narinder, you can call me Naz for short. I am the Senior Product Architect for Prince2 at PeopleCert, and I do have colleagues in the room, so afterwards, if you'd like to chat with us, please do. Just a little bit about me and what I do. So my background before I joined PeopleCert is working in projects and programs and change management. That's what I specialised in. I started out at a tender age of 19 working for DHL, where I climbed the ranks and I moved into their global projects. Apparently, I was made for project management. I'm a bit of a control freak and I liked to have structure. I like to get things done, a bit of a completed finisher. And that's where I discovered the original Prince2 framework. We were mandated to do the studying and the exams and to apply that framework. I have to say, for me personally and professionally, it was a game changer. It gave me the structure that I needed. So I've been a big advocate of Prince2 project management. I then went on to do program management, and I diversified in many different other qualifications. So when I got the opportunity to come and work for PeopleCert, who now own the product, it was a real honour. Okay, it was like my dream come true, because I wanted to be part of a journey where we make the product better. Because ultimately, it's people like me that started out in project management that we want to make life better for. So let me tell you a bit about us. Who are we? PeopleCert is an organisation that's been around for 25 years at least, if not longer. Okay, we deliver over 500,000 exams a year. So as Simon said, we not only develop the qualifications, but we actually administer the exams as well. We're an organisation of over 1,000 people, specialising in different aspects. We work with a number of associates. The numbers are right there, 10,000. We deliver our exams in multiple different languages. So it's not just in the English language, we have lots of different languages that we deliver in. And you can see globally, we're delivering across over 200 countries, which I think, when I think about working for DHL back in the day, I used to think it was a big deal saying that we went to 196 countries. This beats it. Okay. And we've won over 60 awards. What's our mission? Our mission at PeopleCert, and this is ingrained within all of us, is to develop global best practice frameworks and the certifications that go with it, so that we can improve organisational efficiency and enhance the lives and careers of the people. What does that mean? I'm going to break this down into what it meant to me. Okay. When I was in your seat, I wasn't doing this role. For me, it meant investing in me, making me better at the role that I was undertaking at that time, be it as a project manager, be it as a business analyst, be it as a program manager, it didn't matter. It was about me investing in me, doing these qualifications to learn something, to make me more efficient in the way that I did things, and giving me that structure. Our values are about delivering quality. That's really important. There's no point in putting something out there that doesn't meet your quality standards. Okay, so part of what we do is talk to you. Find out what is it you want, what is it you need, and make sure that we deliver against those. It's about innovation, not being stuck in the old way of doing things, always looking for new ways, better ways of doing stuff for you. It's about having passion and integrity. Hoping you're seeing that in me standing up here. I do have a passion for what I do. I absolutely live and breathe project and program management. And I guess you have to have that, because I always say to people, it's not a 9-to-5 job. When you're working on projects, it's part of what you do all of the time.
Is the divorce rate high for project managers?
Well, I'm separated, if that helps. So let's have a look at how we work with our leading partners. So you'll see here, because we've been around for such a long time, we've built some great relationships with organisations. So you'll recognise some of those names. 82% of those are Fortune 500. We work with government departments, and if you know the history of Prince 2, you'll know that it started out as a UK government framework. So we've built great relationships in over 45 countries with governments to introduce more structured ways of doing things, because we know it works. That's not where we stop. We also work with training partners. We like to call them our partners, because we work with them, who deliver those qualifications out to the wider organisations. But we also work with academic institutes as well. So universities across lots of different places, lots of different countries. Now, if you have any questions as I'm going along, just fire them at me. Okay, you don't have to save them until the end.
You're going to talk about Prince, are you? Can you just, when I was younger, it was Prince 1. When
Was
did
it Prince 1 or just Prince, or was it Prompt?
I can't remember. When did the years the different versions came out?
Okay, so 96 is when I was introduced to it. And it started off as Prompt, which was just used in IT. And then it became Prince. Then it was Prince 2. And Prince 2 is kind of stuck since then in a number of iterations.
There's no Prince 3 out yet then?
It's never going to be a Prince 3.
Okay.
It'll just be Prince 2. But good question.
There are lots of different releases of Prince.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Lots of different releases.
Different industries have got different types of projects, haven't they?
Absolutely, and it's an evolving product. If I go back to what I said at the beginning, we're about innovation and quality. We can't stay stuck with one version of something when we know that the world around us is changing. So we also have to update our products to reflect that. So we've just got now, last year, no, was it the year before? God, the time's flying. But Prince 2, the 7th edition was released, and that's been updated to reflect the changing world. So what does our portfolio look like? You'll see our 4 pillars here. We have ITIL, Prince 2, DevOps, and we also have language cert where we deliver mainly in the English language.
I have a question. What's the difference between Prince 2 and PMP?
Besides its name,
Yeah, I
there's
mean,
lots
everything.
there's lots of consistencies.
Is it the same or?
No, I can't say it's exactly the same because that would be wrong. It's basically the branding. Okay, they look at project management through a different lens, but there's lots of similarities in amongst that, and it depends on where you are in the world as to what the flavour is, what they prefer to do. Okay, what I can tell you about Prince 2 is it is globally recognised. Okay.
Yes, I would also say, and probably my point of view with PMI, my experience is it's quite different, and it's like the PMBOK of knowledge. You sort of, it's a longer thing, and Prince 2 really brings you in with the foundation and practitioner very, very quickly and gives you all those foundations. Where you've got a lot of materials you might be able to use in the PMI, but it's a much longer sort of, a much longer sort of thing. So
I've had people come to me and say, "Naz, which one do you recommend?" I said, "Well, if you could do both, why would you not?" Because they do complement each other. One's quicker, and which is the Prince 2. We do it generally over a 5-day learning, well, 3 days for foundation, 2 days for practitioner. But nothing you learn there is going to contradict what you may go on to learn more about through PMI. But they complement each other really well. Okay. So I am the senior product architect for this pillar here. Okay. What else can I tell you about it? I'm going to leave it at that for now. So let's talk about the challenges of today's world.
Ooh.
What are some of the challenges you face in your projects before I go on to the slides? Let's see what you guys have. What sort of challenges do you face in your project management journey? Anyone?
Well, the usual problems are, you know, it's overspent, over budget. It's late and don't meet user needs. And the bigger the project, the more that applies.
Absolutely.
That's still the truth.
It is still the truth. Funny that, isn't it? Nothing seems to have changed.
Pernima online says that, yes, but everything is getting faster.
Faster. Good. Okay. What's causing that to happen? Why is everything faster?
Well, the technology's going fast, isn't it? You got AI and quantum now.
And Steve says, yes, faster, but cheaper and less resource.
Huh. So we're compromising quality by the sounds of it. Okay. Well, we know that we live in a constantly changing world. Okay. When we wake up, let's go back to when COVID happened or the financial crisis happened. You can go to bed one night and wake up the next day and things are very, very different. There's a lot of stuff that is out of our control. But we as businesses need to respond. We have to respond to global competition. We have to respond to disruption. Technology is changing all the time and somebody comes along with something brand new and we have to respond to that.
And change of governments.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Look at America now, that's going to change, isn't it?
Yeah. Wars, pandemics, there's just so many things that we're surrounded by that keep having an impact on how we do things. And of course, emergent technology and trends. So what does this mean for you? So let's look at this. Let's talk about constant and rapid change in your business environment. So you may have heard of terms like VUCA and Barney and unexpected events. We use these as a way of kind of classifying what is happening around us. So VUCA stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And we tend to look at this where we're looking at the turbulence around us, where we're looking or we're working in an environment with rapid change. And it helps us to kind of frame what is it we're trying to tackle. Barney on the other side of that, if you've come across Barney, stands for brittle, anxious, non-linear, and incomprehensible. So when we talk about brittle, we're talking about small things that happen, small changes, triggers that cause a chain event. So what we might have underestimated as little, and then all of a sudden it's way bigger than we anticipated. We talk about anxious. A good example of this would be the pandemic and wars, where it creates anxiety within us because it's that uncertainty. Non-linear, we could talk about things like climate change. By the way, I wrote loads of examples down if you're wondering what I'm looking at, okay? Because I like to give people examples. So, for example, small changes in greenhouse gases that leads to big significant impact. And then when we talk about incomprehensible, at the end of Barney, things like AI. So you've mentioned AI a number of times. You know, can I trust it? Is it transparent? Are we being biased? Is the information real? How do we know? It leaves us with questions. So the challenges that we're facing is that we are facing uncertainty, volatility, ambiguity. The projects that we're running these days, we don't know everything up front. Let me ask you guys a question. How many of you relate to that? How many of you relate to these bullets here? Reactive planning. frequent rework,
Whoa.
difficulty aligning what you're trying to achieve, your project outcomes, with the change or shift in your business priorities.
Sounds expensive.
It is. What about stress levels? Because every day, everything seems to keep changing. Lots of nodding of heads. Anybody want to share an experience of where they've experienced this? Go on. Because I don't have to talk for 30 seconds.
Well, I'm retired for a long time, so I can't give any recent experiences, I'm afraid.
An old experience, because believe it or not, I bet it's still relevant.
Oh, yeah. People don't change much.
No, don't. So we know that these are still common. I've been in the industry for well over 20 years. And I can tell you that I remember experiencing this in my early days. I still see it now as well. And in fact, it's probably more so now because of the dynamics of the changing world, things that are happening around us. Before, we didn't have instant access to news and what's going on. So it took a while for it to filter. Some of you might remember that, some of you won't. I do. Okay. So we were kind of shielded, so we had more time to respond. Nowadays, it's instant. Therefore, we need a solution yesterday. So when we're addressing this challenge, it requires professionals to be able to navigate these unpredictable environments. We have to be able to preempt. What if this happens? What are we going to do? Professionals who fail to build that resilience and be able to adapt are going to struggle. They're going to struggle to remain relevant or secure leadership roles in that rapidly changing landscape. Why? Because we're not able to demonstrate that we can adapt to what's going on around us. Let's talk about the next one, global competition. We live in a competitive world. Everybody wants to be number one. So we've got increased pressure to deliver our projects on time, within budget. I like this one, with a higher level of quality. So this is what we class as good quality, but I want it to be better than that. Often, while having to manage cross-functional and sometimes even cross-cultural teams. So as I said, I come from a background where I've worked on an international level and my teams have been all over the world. That is not an easy task to do. How many of you work with teams across the world? Anybody? All right, you put your hands up. My lot all put their hands up. You do? Okay. How easy or difficult is it for you to manage that relationship?
It's constantly changing. The demands are different. Everyone takes nuances differently. So you can't have one structured approach for everyone. You always have to modify and adapt.
It's that adapting word, isn't it? We have to keep adapting to what their requirements or their needs are. Yeah. Absolutely right. We need to be able to demonstrate a global mindset. We have to be culturally intelligent. We have to have the ability to deliver competitive advantages. Because if we don't, we're going to get overlooked. Because we're not going to be recognised for being able to bridge that gap with our stakeholders. Because technically that's who they are. We need them as much as they need us. Then we've got disruption. This is where we've got sudden shifts that are being caused by new market entrants, economic downturns, innovation, lots of different reasons. And it requires us to quickly pivot. We've got to be able to respond to that quickly. Something's happened over here, we hadn't anticipated, we now need to do something different. And that's really important because if we don't, we need to be able to demonstrate our ability to actually anticipate and adapt to what's going on around us, that disruption. And that's necessary for long-term career growth for you. You've got to be able to demonstrate to your employers, to your organisation, I can deal with that. I'm quite, what's the word I want to use? Flexible. Agile is a term that you'll hear often. We can shift and move the way that we need to. Because if you can't, well, are you going to really get that promotion that you're looking for because you weren't able to adjust to the changing needs of the organization? And that sounds like a real bold statement to make, but if I've got to pick, who am I going to pick to take on that next role or take on that next challenge or that next project? Somebody that is able to diversify, adapt, and is agile in their approach.
Hard to get people though, those skills.
They're out there, believe it or not, they're out there. It's finding them that's tricky. They're definitely out there.
And they might be working for somebody else, yeah.
That is true. That is true. But the idea is that if we're looking for the right people and they've got those right skills, you'll eventually find somebody. It's about keeping yourself up to date. People do like to try different things. It could be within the same organization. You know, I use DHL as the example. I didn't stay put in one project. I moved around a lot, but I stayed within the organization.
But the top project manager can earn really high salaries, can't they?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a rewarding field. I'm not going to say it's not. It really is. It feels good when you get to the end of a project. You see the positive results. Let's talk about emergent technologies and trends then. So here, the key challenge is keeping up with new tools. How many of you struggle with that? Because there's just so much new stuff coming out all of the time. Yeah, hands up. What's your experience? Hi, tell us who you are.
Tom, I'm a
Hi, Tom.
project manager. Yeah, I mean, there's loads of tools coming out that you can use as various plugins to Jira and Teams, and it seems like there's lots of variety in what you can pick on. It's not clear what is actually going to be useful to you in your day-to-day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then how do you get the answers that you need then to pick?
I'm still looking.
So still researching. Okay, so how do we address these challenges? We've got all this new stuff being thrown at us. We have to keep ourselves up to date, right? We're going to have to do research, and I'm guessing that's what you're doing. Doing that research, getting to know, using the resources that are available to us. Mastery. Yeah, if we don't go out and we don't keep ourselves up to date with what's going on out there, then we are going to lose touch with what is actually happening. So we want people to invest in themselves, take the time to master certain ways of working, you know, understand the technologies that are out there, but also, you know, make yourself future ready by looking at what's on the horizon. The fact that you're here shows that you're investing in that. Okay. So an inability to adopt and integrate new technologies is going to signal a lack of future readiness. You know, if we don't invest in getting our systems, the way we work, up to date, we get left behind. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, but how many of these organizations have got training schemes to address all these things?
I couldn't give you a definitive number, but I know that they do it, especially in today's world, because they can't afford not to. If they don't keep up to date, they get left behind. And technology is one of the most fastest growing areas. I mean, you just said it yourself. It's knowing what am I going to use? So organizations are having to invest in doing that research. What is the right thing for us? Because if they don't, the old systems they're not fit for purpose anymore. They served their purpose, but we've moved on. We need something new. So, what's the professional's dilemma? How are we going to balance our skills versus demand and career goals? What would you do? And the answer to that, let me get my slide out in front of me. I wrote some notes down.
I think degrees in project management, more degrees in project management and master's degrees would be a big help.
I'm not disagreeing with you, which is why we work with so many universities, because I agree. Education is key. Anyone that knows me personally will say I'm a big advocate of educating yourself.
I'm an educator.
Education is very important. So having the knowledge, building on your PPM framework. Because if we don't, these are some of the common challenges you're going to face. You don't know what's out there, and therefore you can't educate yourself. You can't really then have a clear development path of where I'm going. How do I get to where I want to get to? I work with lots of people previously to joining this role, where they say, Naz, I really want to get to this role. How do I do it? And I will take the time to sit with them. And I will talk to them and say, well, what is your passion in? What do you enjoy doing? And we'll work it out. That's your development path. Because along the way, you're going to have to learn. You're not just going to get from here to here without the knowledge. You need the knowledge, the skills, and the attitude to get there. Fragmented learning experiences. If you're learning in silos, you're not really getting the real world application. So it's important to be learning with people that can share their knowledge with you. You know, when I deliver a training session, I encourage group conversations because people learn from each other. It shouldn't just be my voice they're hearing. So let's talk about the Prince 2 framework.
Can I ask a question?
What you'll find is we offer
there's a if I may be interrupt shortly. Miss Purnima has a question for you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks. I'm online, so I just wanted to come in where you're on the previous slide, just to say that having the experience or doing the development path is great, but without the experience in organizations to get that skill, that's one of the worst parts, is that it almost needs to have that work experience being in there and learning at the same time. Otherwise you just end up with people telling you about the framework and then not understanding how to tailor it, because that's what we do in Prince 2.7, and the people part of it, it's so much more about people than it was when I first did it. And so doing the training thing, I was talking through it, what I found was that individual didn't have any experience and he wasn't relating it, so it was much harder. So doing that as a combined way of working, apprenticeships and things, is brilliant. I think that's a good way to get experience.
If we take any type of learning, thank you for that. And I absolutely agree with what you've just said there. You've hit the nail on the head. If we take anything, you can learn it by watching somebody else do it. But until you apply it yourself, have you really learned it? You won't know whether you're actually able to do it until you apply it. So you can get the knowledge. That's what training will give you. We share, we impart. Trainers will impart their knowledge with you. They'll try and give you examples. But the real challenge for you starts when you leave that learning and you go and try it out. Now, you're absolutely right. Not everybody gets the opportunity to do that. So I've been training this for many, many years. One of the things I say to people is, why don't you go home and start a project at home? Imagine that you're going to do your living room, but think of it like you're doing it in your office. What are the things that you would have to consider? Just try and apply some of the skills to basic, everyday, smaller scale projects. And then once you get the opportunity, apply it to something that is more outside of that. It is tricky. I don't know what the magic answer is. Apprenticeships are brilliant. Volunteering is something I recommend people do. If you're really stuck and you really want to apply it, there's loads of organisations that say, screaming out for volunteers. Go and build a school, build a hospital, get out there, apply it. You've got that skill, now go and use it. And you come away with the ability of saying, I've applied those skills. So here's my evidence of how I used what I learned in that classroom. Thank you for that.
Is working from home suitable for project management, or is that a bit of a disadvantage if people are working not in an office with a team, they're trying to work from home?
That's a really
saw
good
Trump
question.
yesterday, he's ordered all the civil servants They come back in the office.
So
you know.
I'm going to say yes and no.
Mm.
And the reason I'm going to say yes and no is because there are advantages to working from home.
Mm.
Cost saving to individuals,
Yeah.
cost saving to organisations.
Mm. And I'm sure some tasks can be done at home quite
Absolutely.
more efficiently.
We're
with no
better at
interruption.
technology nowadays, using Microsoft Teams,
Mm.
using Zoom. So it definitely allows us to do that and to collaborate with our teams.
Mm.
I'm predominantly based from home, and I feel like I'm always sitting in an office surrounded by people because I'm always talking to my team. The disadvantages, I guess, are the lack of human, as in sitting with somebody and, you know, but other than that, I don't really feel there's any disadvantages, because if you're using the right technology and tools, it shouldn't feel any different. I don't know. What does everyone else think? Because that's my opinion, but I'm not the only one in this room. What are your views?
Depends on the project as well. Like you said, you know, dealing with international teams, you're not, unless you are physically traveling,
Yeah.
then it's going to be the same whether they're 1,000 miles away, 20, well, not 20,000, yeah, 10,000 miles away, or, you know, just the other side of London. So there's benefits, and sometimes with, you know, teams like that, you do physically meet up occasionally, you work out what frequency to meet up, I guess. But most of the time you're remote.
Yeah, I definitely think it will help with team dynamics. Bringing the team together and going out and just having a meal together, it can really help with the morale side of things and the way that the team gels. But
And I was
otherwise,
going to, if I could, one of the things that happened was a lot of us that were running projects before had the ability and the opportunity to build relationships and learn those skills. And after COVID, everyone got used to working from home. And if you go back in, you have to learn that skill. And there are many people who never got that opportunity. So for many of us who had the skill before, it's not as difficult to do that remotely or back on Zoom. But for those people that never had the opportunity to learn how to watch people, see the cadence of their voices and things, it's harder. So bringing people back into the office to learn those skills is probably one of the reasons why it's a good thing for people to come back in a little bit more than before.
I like that, and I think that does give you something, gives me something to think about. I agree, actually, and the reason I agree is because I know students, my son's age, that had to do their first year of uni from home, and that lack of interaction with other people actually did have a massive impact on that experience and the skills that we take for granted that we do learn through physical interaction with people in an office. So I'm in agreement. Now that you've said it, it makes me think of that experience.
Well, in a uni, 50% of the lectures are online now, which has an advantage because you can watch them 24/7 several times. You know, you don't have to travel to the uni. So there are advantages there. So I'd go along with 50-50, 50 online, 50 at the uni. I think that would work well, and it saves costs as well, of course.
It does. It makes it more convenient as well if you've got international students or if you're not well, you don't want to miss out. There are advantages.
Definitely.
Each person has to look at what are the advantages versus the disadvantages, and you have to make an educated guess as to what's going to work for you. Okay, so this is our portfolio. I just want to quickly run you through it because I am very conscious of time, although I don't know what the time is, but I am conscious of it.
You've got plenty of time.
Oh, I have got plenty of time. Okay. So we talk about portfolio management. How many of you know what portfolio management is? Work in that kind of environment? Yes, yes. Okay. So strategically aligned, right? You could have a HR portfolio, a marketing portfolio. You're looking at this on a much wider, bigger scale.
Just where you've got several projects going on at the same time,
Absolutely.
which are part of one big project.
That would be program that you're describing, and the program can be part of a portfolio. Okay. So programs are where we're leading transformational change. So a big container, it's got strategic objectives. Let's say you're a local authority looking to regenerate a particular part of your town centre. That would be a programme. Okay, out of that, we'd have multiple projects. One would focus on greener spaces, one would focus on pedestrianising the high street, another one might be focusing on the lighting in the area. Each project is there to deliver something specific. Now, alongside that, we've got Prince 2 Agile. This is about using agility within your projects so that you are more adaptable. Now, project management does touch on that, but this takes it to another level. Okay, it gives you more around how can you do that? How do you apply it? And then, of course, we've got risk management, P3O, the project program and portfolio, and then we've got the P3M3 assessments that we do. It's a model, it's a tool that we can use to look at the maturity of an organisation along with its capability. And we do that at portfolio, project and program level. So this is a good picture of what sits under the Prince 2 framework. Any questions?
Do you still do managing successful programs? Is that a separate?
This one.
Right, okay, so it's,
Management programs.
okay, so you've changed the name.
It's still MSP. It was just, rather than say MSP, a lot of people are like, well, what is that? We thought we'd say managing programs.
I had a sort of general question about whether all of the methods within the framework are now all prefixed Prince 2, or is that just your sort of marketing angle? Have we actually?
It's a portfolio. Okay, so we call it the framework, Prince 2 framework, and underneath it we've got projects, programs and portfolios, along with all of the other things that you see on the slide.
Where those of us are obviously practicing and ongoing, I did MSP. Do I amend my sort of my work CV as a consultant to be managing programs, or do I leave it as MSP?
MSP is still recognised as MSP. That has not changed. Absolutely.
It will continue to be on a certificate.
Absolutely.
Just one question. Does P3O mean PMO?
Yes.
Yes.
So we call it P3O at the moment, and it's what the wider world refers to as PMO.
Thank you.
It's P3 because it's at the portfolio, program and project levels that you might have a PMO.
Any other questions? All right. So let's talk about the learning journey. This is just an example of how somebody might approach their professional development in this area. So begin with Prince 2 project management. That will give you a foundation level, and it gives you the basis on how do we manage projects. We've also got Prince 2 Agile. So this is where you're now integrating the agile ways of working into what you might be using Prince 2 project management in. They complement each other. It's not one or the other. Each one builds on the previous one. You may decide, like I did, I've done projects for a while now, fancy moving into program management. Let's see what that's all about. Well, that's where MSP, there's your MSP, come back on the slide. You move into MSP, and it gives you that strategic view. It starts to get you to understand transformational change. Portfolio management. So that's that next level up. So this is where we're focusing on optimizing our resource allocation across all of our strategic initiatives. So there will be lots of programs that sit underneath that and standalone projects. Then I've got friends, colleagues, they're my friends, started out as colleagues, where they've specialised in certain areas, where they've started out with me in project management, then they found that one thing that was their thing. So I've got a friend who is a risk manager within a banking organisation. They love it. I think it's a bit crazy. It scares me because risk in that kind of environment, it's about all the things that could potentially go wrong, but also could go right, opportunities. So we've got risk management. You might decide that you want to work in P3O, you want to set up an office and help standardize the way that we do things. So project, program, portfolio. That might be your thing. There's so many different routes that you can go in. But I always say to people, start with projects, because that gives you a good view of how things are done within an organisation, how we deliver change. And from there, you can kind of diversify. Because you'll get a feel for how we deal with risk management in a project. How do we deal with issues? How do we plan? It will give you that grounding, that basis to build upon. How do we deal with change? How do we set up our team structure? How do I put together a decent business case? The justification for why we're doing this. You'll get all of that right from the beginning. And all of that applies everywhere else. So why is Prince2 your gateway to professional excellence? Notice I've got adapt, equip, and achieve. The idea is we want to adapt to today's dynamic world, which, as we know, is constantly changing. So we want to be adaptable, learn to be flexible and scalable, and use methods that allow that to happen. That's what our methods do. We make them so that they are flexible for you. We talk about tailoring a lot, because what we don't want to do is be prescriptive and say, you must do it like this. We give you a framework, we give you a method, and we say, now tailor it to your organisation. Adapt it to fit your needs. That's really crucial, because one size does not fit all. Equip yourself for every PPM challenge. So build expertise within your organisations, across your projects, across your programmes. How are you going to set up your portfolios? Think about having people that are experts in risk management. You're going to have a PMO. These are things that we need to start thinking about if we're looking at this from an organisational perspective. And achieve recognition. So I have a genuine question for you. I'm very much about academia, and I think it's important to be recognised for what you're good in. Okay. How many of you have certifications in some of the things that you've seen today? I'm just curious, so I'm going to ask a leading question. In some of the certifications that I showed, so Prince2, project management, MSP, okay. How many of you keep your hand up now if have definitely gained as a result of it?
I've studied them, but I didn't get qualified.
Right, so everyone that put their hand up to start with, put their hand back up because they gained. I didn't force anyone to do that, did I? That makes me happy. I can hand on heart say, and before I even started working for PeopleCert, which was only last year, by the way, I have been in this, doing this since 1996. And it has helped me, for sure, because it gives me a way of thinking. It gives structure.
You don't look that old.
Oh, I'll be 51 next Saturday. Just thought I'd put that out there. Achieve recognition. So yes, it's nice to have the certification. I'm not going to lie, it's nice. For me, it's more than just the tick in the box and having a cert. It's telling me, it's reminding me, I did that, I understood it, and I was able to apply it. So now let me take it and use it in the real world. Because remember what I said, anyone can study. It's what do you do with that? How are you going to apply it in the real world? That's where the real learning comes in. So why Prince2 makes sense? Holistic expertise across PPM disciplines. It demonstrates your mastery of your interconnected skills. It's recognised, I can tell you that now. Yeah, I know organisations look through CVs and look at who has the qualification. Rightfully or wrongfully, this does happen. They look, have you got the qualification? Why? Because to them it's a standard. They can see that you've invested in that learning, and you'll be able to come in and be able to talk the same language as they potentially use within their organisation. And you'll be working in the same way as everybody else, because it's a standardised way of doing things. Flexibility with structured credibility. So professionals can customise their learning journey while achieving a universally recognised credential. we don't say you have to do it in this way. It's about what do you want to master next? And all the information's there. You get to pick. There's no you have to do this first before you can do that. Don't limit it in that way. Career differentiation in a competitive market. So the idea is that it shows prospective employers, even customers, when you're going out and you're tendering for business, or they come to you and they say, we've got a contract that we want to award. Come to us and tell us why we should give it to you. What are they looking for? A lot of the time they want to see these standards. Why? Because it's giving them that security of they know what they're talking about. They've invested in learning that they're going to have structure, they're going to have governance, they're going to have control. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be paying them a lot of money. You need that, what's the word I'm looking for? Peace of mind. I'm not going to pay someone to take on a contract if I don't trust them to get it right. Benefits for every career stage and goal. So for beginners, this is the starting of your journey. Good on you, okay? Because what this will do is help you build your confidence and your foundational knowledge. So our qualifications start with foundation level, and then it has a practitioner level. The foundation level gives you the basics of understanding the terminology, understanding the framework. Practitioner then takes it to the next level. Are you able to apply what you've learned to a given situation? So this is that bit where we were saying you can learn something, but until you apply it, how do you know? We try to do that through our practitioner. For experienced professionals, gain credentials that reflect advanced expertise in program and portfolio management. What that does is opens door to leadership roles. How many of you have done that? You've climbed the ladders. You started out maybe as a business analyst like me, moved on to project management, then went on to program management. Yes, yes, yes. May I ask what your journey was? I'm going to go over there and then I'm going to come to you guys.
So from programmer through project management.
Okay, so you started with project management and you moved on to program management? Or...
Well, no, started as a coder.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Prince 2, then the APMP, which is, I won't mention that here.
That's okay, you're allowed to.
And then MSP, and now
they complement each other.
So, yeah,
Climb in the tree. And has it been logical for you doing those qualifications? You can
I
see
started off in projects and then literally moved into program management with the MSP. So yeah, did Prince 2 first, then got into projects, did MSP, then got into programs.
Amazing. Okay, good. There's a prime example. You might choose to do it that way. And they do, they complement each other. We're trying to make sure that the language is the same, so it doesn't feel disjointed. You might choose to become a specialist. This is where you want to enhance your skill set and really specialize in something like risk management or set up a PMO. To share that knowledge, we might have centers of excellences. There's so many different avenues that you can go.
How did you cope with all the different types of project? Because it could be civil engineering, it could be soft project IT, or it could be any sort of, it could be in retailing, banking, there's all different industries. So all need a different approach. And there's also different cultures, different types of people in those organizations.
You're absolutely right.
It might be an organization where they're all graduates. It might be another way, it's a factory, and there's just the managers who are pretty well qualified, you know. So that's difficult, I think, to cope with all those different environments.
This is the thing. You're absolutely right. You've picked up on something there. And this is one of the reasons why I love the job that I do now, because we recognise that. And actually, we started recognising this many, many years ago before I came along. This is why Prince 2 has evolved, because we wanted it to be a method that could be used in any industry sector. We don't want you to be limited by, I work for the NHS and therefore this isn't going to work for me, or I work in IT and therefore it's not applicable to me. We wanted to create a product, and this is applicable for all the products that we have. They've got to be generic. You've got to be able to tailor it and adapt it to suit your industry sector. Because you're right, every industry sector is so different. And they also have some commonalities as well. For example, they all need structure, they all need governance. They all need people with specific skill sets, roles within a project. And if we can approach this one project in one industry sector, let's say using Prince2 project management, there's nothing to say you can't replicate that somewhere else. The content and what you're delivering may be different, but the approach you take can actually be very much the same. And that's the nice thing about it. We can adapt. Flexibility. Learn what you need when you need it and align it to your own career goals. We don't say, nobody has a right to say this actually, I say this to my children, go where your heart is. If you are passionate about it, learn about it. And if there's something else you want to learn, I will never stop you, go, do it. Well, I will say the same here. If this is an industry that you like, whether you work for the NHS, whether you work for local government, central government, and I've worked with all of these different areas, the problems are always the same, by the way. It's just that you have some more red tape in certain industry sectors and less red tape if you, let's say, working in a banking environment. But the problems are generally the same. But how we approach them and the methodologies we use are still very applicable. So if you find that you have a passion in a particular area, go after it. Don't limit yourself. You can literally learn whatever you want. And I don't think, I'm a good example of this, I don't think you can ever be too old to learn. I'm always looking to learn. Why is that important? I'm going to let you just look at the numbers on the screen for a second. Okay. Notice it says 97% of organisations believe that project programme and portfolio management is actually critical to their business performance and to their success. I didn't make that number up. This is done on research. We're going to need at least 2.3 million new project management professionals.
You're being silly. You're being silly now.
By 2030. Why is that though? Why do you think that might be? I have a theory, but I'm curious to see what yours might be.
More and more projects, isn't it?
Why is there more and more projects?
Because things are moving so fast, business, technology, governments, AI,
We are in
whatever.
such a changing world, such a changing environment, we have to keep changing with it. And every time we have to introduce change, guess what? We do it through a project. It's one of the characteristics. 50% of professionals are project managers, do not have a PM certification. 32% of the budget is lost when a project fails to reach its goals. 39% of projects fail due to change in the organisation's priorities. I'm seeing this a lot more because of the changing environment that we're in. They keep having to change their priorities. We have to be adaptable.
I think it might be a good moment to throw in a question that actually came in a while back from Brendan, who was wondering about whether or not the sort of mix of certifications you're seeing has changed over time. Is there more MSP than there used to be? Is there less Prince2? Has there been a change in the number of certifications?
I'm not going to lie and say I know the numbers off the top of my head because I don't. What I can tell you is at this stage, I don't think there's been a change as such. I think the same number of people are still coming in. I don't know whether any of you guys have those numbers to hand, but I feel the numbers have stayed steady.
Yeah, I mean, Prince 2 is certainly the main one. So I wouldn't say MSP has overtaken Prince 2, certainly not. So that's what people would start with. I think what was interesting was the development of Prince 2 Agile. So, you know, the agile technology coming in and everybody feeling that they need to have Agile. So that's been a very important certification. It's still not as big as Prince 2 on its own, but it's a very important certification. So I think there's been that sort of shift. So number 1 would be Prince 2, and then it would be, you know, MSP would be the next juncture from there, basically. So the numbers have grown over the years. It's interesting in different markets. So certain countries have stuck with MSP, some are more PMP markets. I mean, you know, PMP in America, for example, is much bigger than Prince 2. So it rather depends sometimes where we've grown, I guess, to put that into context.
That's Catherine, by the way.
Sorry.
Okay, so I want to share with you now, I've talked enough about why you should do this, what you might be needing to take away with you and consider. But I wanted to share with you, what are we doing here at PeopleCert? What's going on behind the scenes? So we invest a lot of time and money in keeping up to date with the changing environment ourselves. So it's not just you guys that are experiencing change and having to diversify and learn new skills. We also have to do exactly the same. So we're always looking at conducting research and development, because we have to keep our finger on the pulse. Otherwise, we're going to lose touch with you. Therefore, what we deliver to you is not going to be fit for purpose. We do that through engaging with subject matter experts. Do not for a minute think that we make decisions all internally and we don't listen to what the external stakeholders have to say. That does not happen. It is very much the other way around. We run lots of projects to look at what needs to change, to justify why we would want to make a change to a product. We listen to our people, our audience, which is ultimately you. We engage with that audience by getting them to give us their feedback. Something Simon said at the beginning, and I was quite disheartened that you said you didn't get any feedback.
Oh,
it broke my heart, because actually, if we don't get the feedback, how do we make it better for you? It's so important to provide feedback. Providing access to our members of PeopleCert Plus. If you get a membership with us, we give you access to updated blogs, articles, and many different resources. Why? Because we want you to have access to the latest information. And being present and engaging with our partners, and ultimately you, this is part of what we're doing today, to make sure that we provide you with what you need to succeed. Okay, this isn't just about us, this is actually us being servant leaders to you. What do you need from us? And then we develop. So what's going on in the background? So we're currently working on, hot off the press, those of you listening, we are currently actively working on the new Prince 2 Agile. It's happening, okay, in the background. We're looking to do the Prince 2 7th edition second impression. Okay, so the 7th edition has gone out. We're now going to look at introducing the second impression to address some of the things that we've learned through feedback. I can also tell you that we are going to be retiring the following 2 products, Scrum and MOV.
Really? Wow.
But that's because we know that they are fully supported elsewhere in our other offerings. It's just a duplication. Therefore, we don't want to overwhelm you by saying, well, which one do you want to do? Okay, so they're going to go because we know that we have them elsewhere.
Apologies.
We're also
can I
going to
just
be
ask a
looking at
question?
the whole suite of offerings that we have. What we do in the background is we prioritize it, and it's based on what is the market telling us? What are our stakeholders, our users telling us? What do they need? And as I said, we do that through research and talking to people. Okay, so we're constantly looking at the big picture. What do people want? And then we will make those decisions internally on, this is what we need to change next, or update.
Nima has a question she'd like to ask
Yes.
about the second impression.
I didn't say that to me again.
It's about the second impression.
You there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, great. Sorry. With the second impression,
Yes.
what does that mean for accredited training organizations and trainers? Because I went through, because I really wanted to train people and have that credibility last year with the first impression. So what does that mean for people who want to train it and you get the second impression? Does that mean we have to
It's not going to be
retrain and do
significant
everything?
changes. Yeah, you should be
Okay.
fine. As far as I'm aware, it's the things that we've had fed back that we just need to look at.
Okay.
There's nothing major that I'm aware of at this stage, but if there was, I can promise you it would be communicated in the right channels.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, guess what? I get to have a glass of water. Before I do that, let's open up to more questions. Ask me anything you like.
Plenty of time for questions.
Yeah, you say you've got close, because I'm obviously an ex-university academic, and I've taught a lot of this stuff, project management, change management, and all the usual subjects. You know.
Stuff I love.
And, how do you structure a master's then in project management? You put down in the undergraduate courses, I found they're useful. In year 3, they go on work experience for a year.
Yeah.
It's useful, but on a master's, it's only like 1 year, so it's difficult to do that, and they've got to do a 20,000 word dissertation as well afterwards, so that soaks up all the time. So if they've got no experience in project management, it's a bit difficult, I think, you know, to go straight into the job.
So I've worked with a number of universities. Up until last year, I was working very closely with the University of Bedfordshire. And I was teaching their postgraduate project management stuff. I was a lead on that. But I worked with a lot of lecturers where they look at, as part of undergraduate, how do we build that module in? So they'll do some of the Prince 2 project management stuff. But nowadays, what I'm seeing is they're actually building in opportunities to do mini projects, because you're right, the practical experience is very, very important.
I mean, on an MBA, that would be probably put in as 1 unit, an optional unit, project management.
I think all unis do it slightly differently. Some are more hands-on and do try and provide that practical experience. Others are still very much, it's lecture-based and we're just going to talk about it. I think it depends on where you are and their approach to it. But I do know from my personal experience, they are trying to build in more opportunities for practical doing. And that becomes part of their grading. It's not just the dissertation that's going to be the be all and end all. It's the show me, demonstrate how you're going to apply that.
With an MBA with do project management, also you're bringing in graduates from different areas, arts, it could be art graduates, English graduates, things like this, who may still have the skills that you need for project management.
Absolutely, but I think it's on a case-by-case basis as to how the lecturer is going to deal with that. It's very difficult to say one size is going to fit all. We have to recognise what skills are they bringing with them and how can we apply them. And it may be that you do a project, but not everybody gets to be the project manager because that's not their forte. Some people might be more hands-on and building something, others might be better at the planning, and that goes back to find your passion. What is your expertise in? What can you bring? Because projects are made up of teams. And somebody said this earlier on the microphones, it's about people.
Yeah, but a lot of these students, they're lacking people skills because they spend too much time looking at screens, doing everything on screen. And when they come to do group work, they're struggling. And even when they go for an interview, they don't interview. We used to take them on a weekend course and film them, get them to fill application forms in and feedback on how to do an interview. Some of them wouldn't have a clue.
Because they're so busy, like you said, looking at a screen. So it's those real doing practical expertise and experience that really adds the value, because anyone can read a book. What do you do with that? How do I actually apply it? And if we can create more environments like that, I think that's a great thing. And that's what we try to do through our qualifications with the practitioner element, is we give you a scenario and say, you're in this situation, now what would you do? If we could put people in a physical project and examine them, trust me, we would. I'm still looking for ways of doing that.
Cat Online is making a kind of related point that if you're going to do a master's degree in project management and write your 20,000 word essay afterwards, it really ought to be focused on practical internship, real world, because that's where you learn the art, is in the real world, not in university.
Oh yeah, the dissertations, they have to be primary, go out and interview people. It's not like doing a project on economics or something where it's all data. You have to go out and interview and see people and get all the information.
Requires you to go and talk to people. A skill that we're losing.
Yeah.
Thanks to screens. Any other questions?
I have one.
Yes.
So let's just say everything he said, it's like my situation. So I wanted to know, like let's say once I graduate or before I graduate masters, should I approach with Prince 2, like career and project management? Like, how does it work? Like,
it depends. Okay, so you and I will talk, because I can't just give you a basic answer. I need to get to know you and understand what you've been doing, what's your passion in, where do you see yourself? Because I think it would be unfair for me to just give you a bog standard, well, yeah, I think you should do Prince 2 project management. That's not fair.
I think you also, I mean, depending on the area you want to go into, you will find a lot of on the actual job will say what they want. So a lot of companies will say you must have a qualification in X, and that, you know, it's not always Prince 2, there are many different ones, but quite often Prince 2 is there depending on the sector, and you'll find that. So you know, depending on what you wanted to go into, when you start looking at those job ads, you'll start seeing the requirements, and they're usually listed on there.
But companies could bring staff in from other departments who show an interest in project management and send them on courses of what you're running and so on. And they're coming in with different experiences and skills from other areas, from accounting department, sales, manufacturing, whatever.
Yes. And it's about the people. It's about upskilling our own staff rather than going outside, and let's look at what they want to do and where their strengths are, and let's support them. Let's provide them with the training and the learning.
It's a really good point, actually. I mean, what we are finding is it's not the traditional PMO, you know, it's not just the project management office. It's companies are expecting more of those skills. So you're expecting to have project management skills in many different sectors now. And I think that's probably quite a bit of a change. And we're seeing more people wanting those basic skills, not necessarily to be a project manager, but depending on what job they're doing. I think that's a broadening sector, actually. It's a good point.
Very. Any other questions? And you can ask my team as well.
Well, we keep interrupting, sorry.
No, please do.
There was just a very simple question came in. Can you explain what you mean by second impression? Because it's a slightly odd expression.
Second impression.
Me?
I'd say this is second version.
Yeah, okay, so Prince 2.7 was very new, and then of course we want it to be perfect, but as with all things new and shiny, occasionally we get feedback that, you know, people come back with tweaks we should make. I mean, they maybe a typo in something, but it may be an inconsistency, something that isn't quite clear enough. So we get all that feedback, and obviously the architects got all that feedback, and we come out not quickly, but with a second impression. So quite quickly we come up with a revised edition. Now those people who have fed back to us are very keen to know that we've listened and done a second impression. So to the lady who asked the question about, you know, will it change anything? No, if it was a massive change to the whole framework, work, obviously we wouldn't do that. But it's making sure that for the things that were niggling everybody quite quickly, that we've done and all those updates. So that's kind of what a second impression is really. So we wanted to flag it because we've had a lot of feedback with something bright, shiny and new, that we've got a new edition. So that's what it is really. It's a second impression.
7.2.
Yes, it's an improvement. It's all polished with
It's where we've
7.2, it's not 8.
no, not at all.
Not, in fact, absolutely not at all.
Not at all.
Brendan's got a question about costs. Brendan, can you talk to us?
Yeah, hi, Narinda, hi everyone. Yeah, I asked this question because I currently work with apprentices who, you know, kind of they study at level 4 and then they're always asking about what should they do next. And obviously there's a proliferation of qualifications. As Narinda knows, I've worked for professional bodies. How much would it cost to do Prince 2 versus MSP versus MOP now, roughly, in terms of foundation and practitioner, so that I can go back to them and say that's what it will cost you compared to doing, I don't know, PMP, APM's version, management of change, whatever. What kind of costs should they be thinking about in terms of getting their employers to pay for this?
So I can't give you the answer to that, and I'll explain why. So I mentioned partner organisations, right? We're developing the qualifications, but our partner organisations are the facing, which, how do I describe this? How do I explain this in a nice, easy way? They're the ones that people will go to actually purchase their exams and book their training. And of course, it depends on who you go to as to what price they're going to quote you. You wouldn't come directly to us to do that.
Yeah,
Okay.
perhaps I may add also that.
Yes, please,
depending
Anton.
on, if somebody wants to do only a foundation first training, then it can be for 2 days or sometimes 3 days. It depends a bit on what a training organization wants to do with you and also what your specific demand is. And typically what you see is that people do a 3-day training on foundation and they immediately move on to what we call a practitioner level. So that's already 5 days of training. And depending on the offers out there, people make specific pricing. So it's very difficult to articulate the pricing.
And the other thing I'm going to add to that, coming from that world, is what the training, what we call the ATOs, accredited training organisations, do is they try to create packages that will suit the individual learner's needs. Okay, not everybody is suited to a classroom, but not everybody is equally suited to e-learning. So my advice is always to people to go and speak to the ATOs and first go in with what works for you. What do you know works for you in terms of your learning style? And then see what they can offer you. I'm not going to say one is better than the other because that would be unethical, but also our products have to be delivered in a particular way. So the quality is there. It's about looking at which organisation can actually meet the needs of that particular learner. So I'm really sorry I can't give you a price because it will depend on the package that you pick with them, what is suitable to them. I know some of the ATOs, they actually do bundles and they say, if this is the career path you want to do, we're going to support you on that. Start here and work your way through these and we'll do you a deal on that. But I couldn't tell you what the cost is at this stage because I don't know. Sorry.
You don't do the teaching and learning.
It doesn't matter if you can get an organisation to pay.
Well, yes, this is the other thing. Any other questions?
There was a follow-up about the second impression.
Keith's coming back.
No, just to clarify that if you've already invested in training and certification in the first impression, is there any impact on that? You don't need to retrain, you don't need to recertify,
No,
it's
no.
still valid.
It's still very valid. Rest assured.
The certification won't change. The name will be 627. It won't be second impression or anything like that. It's just updated. We've updated it.
Sarah, can you, if you've got the one certificate, can you just learn the extra pages that's in the
it will be change, it will be maybe typos and things like that. It isn't lots of content that has changed. The second impression is literally making sure
It's an improvement upon.
improvement upon. It will not have fundamentally changed. If it fundamentally changed, we will be Prince 2 8th.
So we can't do an upgrade.
No,
There's
there's no need for an upgrade. It will be really small things. Really small things.
What about from if you trained upon 6? Is it?
That's different.
What's the approach to training up to 7? Is that something that?
So my recommendation would be to do Prince 2.7 foundation and practitioner, because it is quite different. And the reasons it's different is because of the changing world we're in. We've added a whole section around sustainability. We've added a whole chapter around people, which wasn't in the previous edition. So it's a new and improved, and that's what we do every time a new one comes out, is because we're improving it and we're adding in the things that were missing in the previous edition, because we're recognizing in the changing world, people need advice and guidance on this, and we need to give it. So the book, whilst we try and keep the book to the same sort of page coverage, in terms of the content and the development of it, it's getting better and better because it's based on what's going on around us. You do need to do the 7.
Do you have 8 in the pipeline?
No. Okay. No, we've only just gone live.
Use the rest.
Say that.
We know it's moving fast, but not that fast.
Not that fast.
If, like, let's say if you do the 7th version, and if the 8th version came, you have to do it again.
I'm telling you now, there is no 8th version. It has just been born. Let's let it become a toddler.
At the end of last year.
I can assure you that isn't part of the plan. You know, if you look at the previous versions, it's always 5-6 years between them at least. So
we
let's get it to kindergarten, and then we'll see. Now, unless the world dramatically changes overnight, I can't see. We try to future-proof it as best as we can. We try to look into, that's part of my role. You know, what is happening out there? What is it that we need to be conscious of, and make sure that we address that early? Because, you know, it costs us a lot of time and energy to keep making these changes. And it just wouldn't be fair, because we're making you do the certifications, you're doing them, and we can't just come along and change it. Okay. Anyway,
yeah, I just wanted to mention, because we talked about AI a little bit at the beginning, and we get
Yes.
asked that a lot, and will that change everything? I mean, yes, it changes, but it doesn't fundamentally change the things you need to do to run a project. So technologies may change around you, but fundamentally that doesn't change. So, you know, there might be different add-ons for a course you might want to do on AI, but it actually doesn't fundamentally change
the processes
of doing projects. And I think that sometimes people get a bit, you know, will things be out of date? I don't think they will.
A question from Guillaume. I don't know if Guillaume, you can express your point of view here yourself. If I can just summarize it. Should we be offering more self-study, open university style education rather than expensive training? Or would that not be possible, because then all of the training organisations will lose income? But,
I think that's a really good question to ask, and my approach is going to be, we've got to remember every single one of us in this room is an individual, and we have a preference. I have a preference of how I learn best, and somebody else's might be different. And that's what our training partners try to do. They try to address that by saying, what's your preference? How do you learn best? And if it is going to be something that is a self-study, they will probably offer that to you. If it is that you know you come to life with individuals in a classroom, they will offer that to you. And that's important, because what we don't want to do is say there's only one way of doing it and that's it, because one size isn't going to be suitable to all of us.
I may add to that. Prince 2 actually is what we call a best practice. It's like ideal. What we have seen, however, is that when people sit in a room together, share best practices, they learn much faster. So there is, in my view, certain reasons to do it classroom training or virtual training, if you may wish, because you can share with each other your experiences. But people are also sometimes much better in self-learning or e-learning, if you may wish. But
it comes down to preference.
It's the only thing which you can say. It's best practices. You learn more by working together.
So there are some e-learning programs online that claim to be Prince 2, okay? So would one be able to do that course and then do a certification that's recognized?
Provided it's being delivered through an accredited training organisation, yes. And that's our level.
See, the thing is, that's my question. So the e-learning, so I go online, I do the e-learning, now I know everything. Can I just go and do the exam?
Absolutely. But the exam would need to be booked through an accredited training.
I see the
organisation.
exam.
That's the
Yes.
point. So the materials, and I do want to touch on this because I'm really fussy when it comes to quality. And I think we undermine the importance of quality. We're really particular about making sure that the quality of the materials, the learning, our books, the content is, it should be second to none, right? We invest a lot of time and energy in it. Therefore, when a training organisation is providing you with learning, we expect their materials to be second to none, okay? There are certain things, we create a syllabus and we say, these are the things you must cover, okay? We have our own training materials that we share with them. And the idea is not to say it has to be done this way. That's not what we're trying to say, but we're saying we know these are the things that people need to know. If we allow people to just go off and develop their own, there's going to be difference in standards and therefore quality. And we don't want that. We want the best for you. So whether you do an e-learning course, it will still need to be accredited. It has to meet our criteria of what we class as quality. They have to cover certain elements. And that's really important. So no one should be delivering any kind of e-learning unless it's been accredited through us.
So how does one evaluate if that e-learning modules course has been accredited?
So you want to go to an accredited training organisation that is able to say, we are affiliated with PeopleCert, we are accredited. They should be able to tell you that. You should be able to see it on their webpage. And you can always check with us. We have, I believe on our website, we have a list, right? Of who the accredited organisations are.
Could I just pipe in there?
Yes.
I thought this would be helpful because I went through this process last year to become an accredited training organisation, and PeopleCert have put a minimum standard so that if you want to do a practitioner or you want to do Prince 2, the practitioner course has a minimum pass rate, which is over and above the normal pass rate that you want to just have the exam. So if anyone is on their website, it means they would have had to have passed it. They changed that level a little while ago. So I just wanted to let you know that if they're on the website and you've been accredited and it's recently, you know that we have to go through that extra stuff. Your organization, you have to give a lot of information before they say yes. So that's how you know.
Yes, do invest a lot of time and energy. So thank you for that, because I know that wouldn't have been easy because you have to put a lot of time and energy into meeting those standards and that criteria.
How much does it cost to become an accredited training organisation?
Oh, I don't know.
We've got quite a list of accredited. There's various things you have to be. So to be able to become an actual organisation, and then you've got to have a number of trainers. So it's quite expensive to actually, set yourself up. But then you're going to set yourself up. Most people have a number of trainers.
Those are the easy ones.
Yeah.
The more difficult one is that you need to have an accredited quality management system.
Yeah.
Yes.
Quality management system gives
And
us
it's the
really the
rigor.
impression that the organization is able to deliver high quality training as we seen.
So we audit it in effect.
And we
Yeah.
audit
We do audit it, and we expect to see, we can come and audit at any time. Give you the heads up, we're going to come and want to see, and if it doesn't match up, we can take your certification away from you. But that comes down to, that's why I was saying when I talk about quality, we are really passionate about what we've put our blood, sweat and tears into. We don't want it to just go into anyone's hand and then they make a mockery of it. That's not how we operate. We work with organisations, all of our training partners have met our standards, and we're proud to call them our partners. That's why I spoke about them as partners, because they're doing a good job in delivering that training. And I used to work for a number of them before. as an associate trainer. So I can tell you they're good. Experience.
How
Any more
long-
questions?
How long does it take like to finish the entire?
So most of our qualifications are a week. Okay, depending on whether you're doing foundation and practitioner. So
Like if you
again,
do both, like
if
foundation.
you do both together, it's either going to be 4 days or 5 days. It can be done within a week. But some organisations, some training providers recognise that's quite intensive, doing it all in a week. So they might offer it to you over a few weeks. Again, they try to tailor make their packages to suit individual needs. So it depends on who you go to and what you ask for. So they're quite adaptable. You might do 3 days, then come back a few weeks later and do 2 days to give yourself time to let it resonate. They're always open to what suits you.